Cape Porpoise has traditionally been a fishing village. It was that for 4,000 years with Native American presence here, and we proved that on the islands through archaeology. And it's been that way for 400 years of European occupation. And since before the American Civil War, this church has been at the heart of that community. And its steeple guided those fishermen into the harbor, and in this sanctuary, they were guided in their spiritual life. There have traditionally been several types of parishioners here. There are those like those here today who knew the church intimately and were here every week and served as its stewards. And there were those that were like seasonal members of the church, and by seasonal I mean they came on Christmas and Easter. And then there were those as well that saw the church as a part of their life, but they weren't here that often, except for times of great joy like weddings or baptisms, or perhaps it was a time of tragedy, funerals and the like, or a time when they were in need of prayer and in need of help. And what we often forget were in these pews, in all of those times, families came and had all of their own stories to tell and share, and that we now sit where they did with our own cares and with our own joys and with our own sorrows. But in all those years, there was one story after another that took place in this sanctuary, and this is one of those stories.
Hours earlier, it had been filled with light, laughter, and love as families gathered to worship and share the gifts that had been piled under the Christmas tree. The clock of the tower showed it was 2 a.m., Christmas Day.
The wind's still light. I called out to my son Frank, if this weather holds, we should be able to get out tonight. With any luck, we'll make enough to get that blackboard and sled that Vivian's been asking for.
1935 had not been an easy year. Fishing had been poor, and money was scarce. Mont had never gone fishing on Christmas Day before, and he really didn't want to start now, but his daughter Evelyn and granddaughter Vivian would be arriving in the morning. Any extra money he could earn tonight would make the holiday that much brighter.
It was barely above zero when me and Frank rowed out to the port, the Alice and Edward. We weren't going to be gone all that long. Some water and a small container of cornmeal was all we brought. Ethel would have dinner waiting for us when we got back. We planned to head out to Jeffrey's Ledge, make one haul, and head back home, same as any other day.
Well, as Mont throttled up the engine and steered his 34-foot vessel past Goat Island Light, Frank started a fire in the small coal stove below deck. It was a Wednesday.
By the time we arrived at the fishing grounds, the wind had shifted to the east-northeast and was blowing harder. We can't fish in this, I yelled out to Frank. Let's go home. I brought us about and pointed toward the Cape when all of a sudden we heard this god-awful click. The engine died. We did everything we knew how to get it started again, but nothing worked. We was in one heck of a mess.
Well, Ethel Sinnott looked uneasily out of her front window overlooking the harbor. In her heart, she knew that they should have been back by now. What could be keeping them? An inner voice told her something was wrong. Finally, she could wait no longer. She told their daughter, Evelyn, to run to a neighbor's and bang on the door. Dad and Frank haven't come home yet. Can you help us?
They put the anchors over just as soon as the engine gave out. If we could just hold our ground, I thought, sooner or later a trawl boat was bound to find us. At one point, we spotted a Coast Guard aeroplane overhead, and have to admit we was pretty low when it kept going and flew out of sight.
Well, as daylight gave way to darkness, hope turned to apprehension. While one man fought to keep the boat heading into the wind, the other strove to keep the stove going. And to make matters worse, 4 o'clock on Thursday morning, it began to snow. The wind increased to about 40 miles an hour, and their vessel tossed about on 20 to 30-foot waves. Their attempts to set a sail failed, and one of the anchors gave way. No time like the present to improvise.
It took all I had to be heard above the wind. As I fought to hold onto the wheel, I screamed down to the cabin, "Frank, start ripping up them army blankets. We'll use them for sails."
Frank pulled 2 worn blankets from the bunk. Then he strung them for a sail.
Be
and
careful.
dragged them onto the deck.
Be careful. Sure, secure them as fast as you can, as best you can, to the mast.
While Frank labored to jury-rig his homemade sail, but a sharp gust of wind ended the experiment. He cursed as he made his way back across the ice-crusted deck.
Never mind that, I says. Look, we're going to need another anchor to slow down our drifting. Take the hawser and whatever pig iron you have on board and make an anchor.
Well, the new anchor was barely finished when the coal ran out. Frank's skin was extremely sensitive to the cold because of an earlier accident, and a fire would mean the difference between life and death. So Frank began to make a pile of whatever could be burned. The bamboo buoys and the cork balls used on the trawls were the first to go. Then Frank took a wrench and he began breaking apart the cupboard. One man struggled to keep the craft headed into the wind, while the other frantically searched for fuel.
We got a seaworthy boat here, I kept yelling to Frank. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. But by Friday morning, the storm was still raging. Neither of us had been able to even doze for more than 15 minutes at a time. The howling of the wind and the groaning of the timbers of my boat made sleep pretty much impossible. Whenever we slipped and let our guard down, we commenced to dreaming of home. What was our family thinking?
Well, although no one would admit that the Alice and Edward might have been lost, with each passing hour, it became harder and harder to hang on to hope. Every attempt had been made to find the missing boat, but the storm had kept all the small local craft in port. At the Synod home, friends and neighbors stayed up through the night for word of the vessel. Many silent prayers were said as the storm raged. Everyone hoped for a miracle. Word had spread of their ordeal, and telegrams of encouragement arrived from around the country, and still no word.
We fought as best we could to keep the boat afloat. We tore up and burned some of the deck. Food was scarce. We rationed what we had, trying to hold out. On Saturday morning, our luck finally broke. I saw the lights of a large steamer passing by. Frank, I see the lights. I grabbed a burlap bag, doused it in kerosene, and lit it on fire. I waved it from the top of our longest pole and shouted for help. But the steamer didn't see us, and our hope died with the embers.
Days had passed. Both anchors had given out, and their makeshift drogue made barely a difference. Father and son were adrift in a turbulent sea, and time was running out. The Coast Guard decided to give it one more try, but this time search beyond Jeffrey's Ledge. And as the plane circled, the pilot spotted something unusual and moved in for a closer look. Oh my God! I found them!
I'm not ashamed to admit there were tears in my eyes when I saw that plane. When the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Antietam reached us, the wind was blowing at 45 miles an hour. We drifted 52 miles from Jeffrey's Ledge. They had to figure out how to get us back. A Lieutenant Thompson yelled over to us, "What do you want us to do with the boat?" "To hell with it, I don't care. Just get us home."
Look! The lieutenant screamed. It's too dangerous to try and take you off. We're going to have to tow you in. Grab the hawser. While a young sailor threw a 100-fathom line towards the fishing boat, but it fell short. The cutter backed off, and once again, carefully tried to move in close enough to get a line to the vessel's bow. Again it failed. For over an hour, they tried. Finally, on the 5th try, the hawser landed on the fishing boat, and Frank grabbed the rope and held on for dear life.
Frank gave me a frightened look and crawled out onto the icy bow. I was scared for him. Barely had he made the line fast, and an angry wave shook the boat. I could see Frank begin to slide. Both of his legs went over the side. He grabbed for something, anything to hold on to, and grasped a piece of the bow. "Hold on, son. Pull, pull." Slowly and painfully, Frank hauled himself back on the boat. I reached out my hand and grabbed him the rest of the way. Now it was up to the Coast Guard.
But it was 0 degrees at the Antietam as it headed for Portland. 0. They had to be extremely cautious. The flying spray was freezing on the fishing boat, and if they tried to pull the vessel too fast, her bow would go under. They had to take it slow, nothing above 4.5 knots.
It wasn't till 8:12 Sunday morning, to be exact, we finally crept into Portland Harbor. As soon as we hit the midstream opposite the State Pier, they lifted us onto the cutter. We was rushed below deck for heat and food and warm clothes. We was some lucky to be alive, I tell you.
Winky Perry drove Maud's wife and family to Portland just as soon as they got word. Anxiously, they awaited Maud's and Frank's arrival. They spotted Maud first. He lumbered over to his wife, tossed his well-known stoicism to the wind, and hugged her. A weary, grateful Frank followed close behind. And when he spied his 4-year-old niece, Vivian, a huge smile filled his face, and he rushed to her side.
I just couldn't believe it. After all we'd been through, Frank hadn't forgotten why we'd gone out in the first place. He sees Vivian, runs to her, picks her up, swings her around, hugs her, and says, You know that sled and blackboard you wanted for Christmas? Well, how about us going and to get 'em right now?
Well, as the Sinnott family joyfully reunited in Portland, the bell at the church on the Cape began to toll, calling parishioners for a celebration. And as soon as they gathered in these pews, the townspeople thanked God for the miracle. Two of theirs who'd been lost had been found. God had bestowed the greatest gift of all, and the Christmas bells of 1935 would ring forever in their hearts. And now we have a song composed and produced by a dear friend of mine, Craig Worth,